Hello, I am recording the video and today's topic is constructor. Introduction. A constructor have a very special meaning to compiler and CLR, but sometimes its flow seems difficult for a developer. Today I will explain simple but important insight of constructor. So what is constructor? A constructor is a special method in a class or struct with the same name as that of a class struct without any return type, used to initialize field and member of a class or struct. A constructor can only be called by compiler using a new keyword to initialize a class or struct, another constructor of a same class or struct using this keyword, the constructors of derived class using base keyword. Type of constructor in C#: default constructor, parameterized constructor, instance constructor, static constructor, private constructor. First, default constructor. A constructor with no parameter is called default constructor. Default constructor is called by a compiler when no argument are passed to new operator while creating an object of class or struct. If there is no constructor in a non-static class, a public default constructor is provided by compiler so that a class can be instantiated. A struct cannot have an explicit default constructor. We cannot define an explicit default constructor in a struct, but it is always provided by compiler to initialize each field of struct to its default value. Parameterized constructor. A constructor with parameterized is called parameterized constructor. A class or struct can have multiple parameterized constructor as long as they have different method signature. They follow the same concept of method overloading. Compiler provides a default constructors only if there is no constructor, default or parameterized defined in a class. Parameterized constructor can exist even without the existence of default constructor. Static constructor. To initialize a static class or static variable in a non-static class, static constructor are used. Access modifier are not allowed on static constructor. Static constructors cannot be parameterized. There can be only one static constructor per class. Static constructors cannot have an explicit this or base constructor call. That is, static constructor cannot be called directly. Static constructors are called automatically before the first instance of a class is created or any static members is referenced. Static constructors are called only once in the lifetime of a class. Private constructor. A constructor becomes a private constructor when a declare with a private access specifier. Private constructor can neither be initiated or inherited from other class. Object of a class can only be created in the class itself. Microsoft recommended its uses to implement singleton pattern. Constructor chaining. A constructor can make a call to other constructor of the same class or of base class. Since one constructor can invoke another, this sometimes can cause execution of multiple constructors and is referred to as constructor chaining. If class is not derived from any other class, below would be the chain. Static constructor Instance constructor. If a class is derived from any other class, below would be the chain: derived static constructor, base static constructor, base instance constructor, derived instance constructor. When a class or struct is instantiated, its constructor is called. Constructor have the same name as the class or struct, and they usually initialize the data member of the new object. A constructor that take no parameter is called parameterless constructor. Parameterless constructor are invoked whenever an object is instantiated by using the new operator and no argument are provided to new. Unless the class is static, class without constructor are given a public parameterless constructor by the C# compiler in order to enable class constructor for struct type. Dissemble class constructors, but structs cannot contain an explicit parameterless constructor because one is provided automatically by the compiler. This constructor initializes each field in the struct to the default value. However, the parameterless constructor is only invoked if the struct is initiated with new. In a derived class, if a base class constructor isn't called explicitly by using the base keyword, the parameterless constructor, if there's no, is called implicitly. This means that the following constructor declare effectively the same. A constructor can invoke another constructor in the same object by using this keyword. Like a base, these can be used with or without parameter, and any parameter in the constructor or are available as parameter to this or as a part of an expression. Constructors can be marked up as a public, private, protected internal, or private protected. These access modifiers define how users of the class can construct the class. A constructor can be declared static by using the static keyword. Static constructors are called automatically immediately before any static field are accessed and are generally used to initialize static class members. Constructor of a class must have the same name as the class name in which it resides. A constructor cannot be abstract, final, and synchronized. Within a class, you can create only one static constructor. A constructor doesn't have any return type, not even void. A static constructor cannot be parameterized constructor. A class can have any number of constructor. Access modifier can be used in constructor declaration to control its access, that is, which other classes can call the constructor. Thank you.